Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity here. Today I want to talk about the moon Cancer in the fourth house, and I've entitled this, We Pick Up Where We Left Off, because it really holds the seed, if you would, of each of our lifetimes. You know, we come into the world, excuse me. There we go. We come into the world headlong. We don't even know if somebody's going to be there to catch us before we hit the ground. And it's a fact that literally and figuratively, we also come into the world with our eyes wide open. So how is it that we can perform such a feat of spiritual acrobatics? We are on a spiritual navigational bearing, and our destination is the single and safest place for us in the universe. It's inside our mother's womb as the fulfillment of our individual karmic signature. The earliest known narratives from mythology, folklore, and archaic writings describe the true nature of reality as teeming with the stories of maternal ancestresses and fertility goddesses. These were the primordial beings who were the vessels of life force. And we even call our own planet Mother Earth. The creatrix was worshipped as Gaia, Astarte, Inanna, Ishtar, Net, and the Shekinah. And she appears in our collective narrative as Hathor and Durga, Demeter, and Mary. From our faintest and earliest history, the Divine Mother has been the vessel of life force, and she has stood at the core of human existence because human birth was revered as the most sacred event in human experience. Since earliest times, astrology has correlated the moon with the sign of Cancer, the fourth house, maternity, childhood, family, security, and home, and to anything that is familiar. According to Chinese philosophy, as the receptive, the passive feminine principle yin, the moon is the archetype of the passive inner space carved from no thing. Her essential property is to be passive, an energetic form and shape of the cosmos. All things are composed of light and shadow. The moon correlates to the feminine principle in its broadest sense, the dark, which is not light, what is soft and not hard. It is inward movement towards the center. So the moon, to repeat. Okay. So the moon correlates to our emotional body. It is our most conscious part. It's our moment-to-moment interface through our emotions with our outer world. And the moon tells us in each moment, are we safe or are we in danger? The sign of Cancer is the archetype of cardinal water. It's the initiatory point of the elemental triad of water. Self-awareness arises through the emotional body in Cancer. It acquires depth and emotional power in Scorpio, and permeability and inclusiveness in Pisces. In the fourth house, we see ourselves for the first time. Cancer is our self-image. It is our ego. Dr. Masaru Emoto, whose name synchronistically contains the root of the word emotion, famously revealed a fascinating property of water. Dr. Emoto discovered that water has the facility to absorb and store information. When water is exposed to an energetic frequency, it generates a unique crystalline molecule of water relative to that frequency. The receptive nature of water facilitates its functioning as a neutral carrier that can store an infinite diversity of information. According to Kabbalah, on the Tree of Life, which is a map of divine consciousness, the Sephirah Binah, called the Supernal Mother and Understanding, correlates to the force that gives shape and form to the Spirit of God. The astrological correlation to Binah is Saturn. We know Saturn to be shape and form, but how can Saturn be the supernal mother? Synchronistically, Saturn is the ruler of the sign of Capricorn, Cancer's polarity. A mother's womb is also a vessel. It is the space, Saturn, into which we involve, Capricorn. Capricorn, whose widely accepted correlation is the father, though some schools of astrology do correlate the mother to the 10th house, is the authority figure, is a feminine yin archetype, energy moving inward. Following the analogy of the structured frequency being crystallized in a drop of water, this ancient teaching suggests that the matrix of our earliest experiences surrounding our birth forms an emotional blueprint as the framework of the lifetime. With the awareness that there is no tabula rasa at birth, then the circumstances regarding family history, relationships with mother, father, siblings, and other family members are of necessity and by design relive experiences. We carry unresolved issues forward into the current lifetime to continue to be worked on through direct emotional experience. Pluto. From lifetime to lifetime, we pick up where we left off. For good reason, we are spared the detailed memory of our karmic past. Early childhood emotional circumstances are the remembering of where we left off and the understanding, binah, of where we are in our current journey of the soul. From the emotional blueprint of our birth point of entry and early environment, we build the entire emotional pathway of our lives, the soul lessons we have learned, the soul lessons that we are currently working on, and how this cycle of lessons extends out into a probable future. Modern psychology diverges at this point, this understanding. Freud defined the complexes of adult behavior as the result of early childhood experience. Jung and his successors suggested the possibility of the existence of a soul, an immortal, immutable, energetic constellation that exists beyond time and space. This allows for the understanding that early childhood events are the relived experiences of a, quote, earlier time, and that a single lifetime is simply an arc of a much greater multidimensional cycle. Jeffrey Wolf Green has said that we have been with 90% of the people in our lives before. This is especially true about our families and those with whom we are intimately connected. It has been suggested that if you would like a reality check of just how evolved you really are, spend some time with your family. So we have a wonderful volunteer today, Olive, and I would like to read her context. We know that in EA, we don't take the chart and overlay it on the person. We take the person's life and we use it to understand how the chart is working. So I asked Olive to give us a little background on her childhood experience, and I'll read it to you. This is what she said, and she's here online. She's gonna add to it, I'm sure. I was adopted. I was completely engulfed and ignored as a child and adult by my narcissistic father. No validation whatsoever, all under the guise of being an overly concerned and unconditionally loving father. Essentially, I was held captive by my entire life. Even still, after he's dead and buried, I'm still captive because of my childhood conditioning. My mother didn't stand a chance, meeting my father when she was only 15. So she became an alcoholic, like a maintenance drinker, not jovial drunk, drinking all day long, literally out of a plastic cup she kept in her closet. Both my parents had Virgo stellium me in the 8th house, and although they were 6 years apart in age, they were only 4 days apart in birthdays, and both had 8 degrees Capricorn ascendant, only 4 minutes apart too. Crazy karma. And so telling you about how the soul chooses, I was adopted too. So this is Olive's chart. You see clearly that she has Pluto conjunct Uranus in the 4th house. And her moon in Aquarius. These are both signatures, Cancer, fourth house moon signatures here that really underlie the entire chart. I'd like to read what Jeffrey Wolf Green wrote in Pluto Volume 1. He said, Pluto in the fourth house demonstrates that an evolutionary cycle is closing and that a new cycle is underway. Individuals with Pluto in the fourth house have been attempting and desiring to learn the evolutionary lesson of security rather than deriving emotional security from any external factor, such as parents, job, lover, etc. These individuals have been learning to create and supply their own emotional security from within themselves. And this certainly does apply here, and you'll see as the chart unfolds. In Olive's chart, Pluto conjoins Uranus in Virgo, which will compel circumstances wherein the soul is deconditioned from emotional experiences of the past that are relived in the early years of life through the birth family. The moon sextile to Saturn, forming a yod with Pluto as the focal point, is perfectly expressed by Olive having been, quote, held captive by her father. The placement of Pluto's nodes, South Node in Capricorn in her 8th house and North Node in Cancer in her 2nd house, hold the underlying evolutionary theme of her intense relationship with her father, propelling her to find her own emotional self-reliance in this lifetime. Moon square Neptune at Scorpio, moon opposite Jupiter, clearly describes her mother's struggle of alcoholism. Not having her own emotional needs met as the result of the oppression she experienced from her father and the neglect by her mother are reflected by her 12th house sun issues revolving around persona and self-worth, and Venus in Taurus isolating Olive emotionally, propelling her inward, 12th house planets, to find her own secure gravitational center, Saturn in Aries conjunct her lunar north node. Sun, Moon, Jupiter, and Neptune form a fixed grand cross, creating repetitive stress that exacerbates and pressurizes Olive's emotional sense of isolation and vulnerability. This lifetime for her is about experiences of emotional deconditioning by exploring different philosophies and lifestyles, 9th house, that contrast to the circumstances of her birth family. This is also a trauma signature, moon in Aquarius, from the past. Pluto's 10th house polarity point in Pisces points to accepting responsibility for her emotional well-being and finding forgiveness for both herself and her parents for the childhood experiences she endured. Her stationary lunar nodes, nodal axis, in Libra and Axis, brings a greater intensity to her personal relationships, especially with herself, lunar south node 5th house, Venus square Jupiter. In order to better understand how she is creating her own self from a place of self-compassion and nurturing others as a compensation for self-neglect, Venus, Taurus 12th, lunar south node conjunct Ceres. Her evolutionary need going forward is to objectify what has happened in order to heal and decondition the traumas of the past by speaking and creatively expressing her own truth. Sun conjunct Mars, Sun conjunct Mars in Gemini, Mars the ruler for a lunar north node, Gemini on her ascendant, become her own authority, lunar north node in Aries conjunct Saturn, which also restates the need to take responsibility for what has come before and what she will create going forward. Pluto polarity point, 10th house. Olive, are you here?
Yes. Hi, Daniel. I'm here.
All right. So can you bring us up to present and relate how, in your own words, this has unfolded in your life experience?
Yeah. So first, thanks. And not a pretty accurate interpretation of my chart and just the 4th house kind of wounding and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm really very much kind of my early childhood conditioning, very much correlates to just kind of what I'm going through now. That's pretty straightforward with, the suffocation and overbearing nature of my father, and the lack of, support or neglect from my mother has kind of currently propelled me into this kind of chaotic, Uranus North Node, Saturn, traumatic kind of time in which I'm really needing to learn to parent myself. And I don't even necessarily have the tools to do that, but it's kind of, right now, it's all about learning how to, come kind of more into my sun, Taurus and Venus, and becoming self-reliant and resourceful and standing on my own 2 feet, just all those kind of Capricorn Taurus lessons, and I guess essentially becoming an adult. And so, so it's very much, just kind of a trigger. Pluto square my nodal axis is skip step with my South Node. So it's kind of going back, I guess, a little bit, South Node resolution, to my early childhood conditioning in order to do that, I guess. I suppose. But I can also see where all this is kind of coming into like my Chiron return and my Pluto polarity point, and all this kind of, it's just very emphasized. The Saturn kind of Capricorn theme is emphasized, and the Taurus kind of self-reliance and becoming resourceful is emphasized. It's just very straightforward. My transits now, given my whole environmental conditioning as a child, is just, it's very straightforward. It's just 1 + 1 is 2. And I'm in it now. So I'd imagine Pluto square my nodal axis, skip step by transit, has something, pretty major to do with that. Pluto doesn't really ask, he's not very polite. And so there's been a lot of loss, and, Uranus on my North Node, Saturn, a lot of trauma and chaos. So it's very accurate to what I can see where my soul chose this particular transit time, if you will, that's kind of based in my whole conditioning as a child.
Excuse me for that. Oops, sorry.
Yeah. So.
Because there's so much Aquarian energy in the chart. Tell us what happened. Sorry, folks. Tell us what happened when your Uranus was transited your Saturn.
Well, he's still there, Uranus. He's like right there. My Saturn's 20 degrees Aries, so he's right there. But it was kind of more when he got to my North Node is what kind of triggered it all. And that was around like spring of 2015 is when kind of, the shit hit the fan, or however you want to say it, where everything got really like chaotic. And I had been preparing for my father to die for a few years prior. Like I knew he would die when Uranus hit my North Node, just because his natal Uranus was there in my natal chart. Like his natal Uranus was right at that 17, 18 degree point. So, but the thing is with Uranus, he's so unpredictable. It's like I knew my father would die, and there'd be some pain and trauma and chaos associated with it. But just as Uranus would be so unexpected, I wasn't really prepared for what I experienced. It was completely out of left field, Uranus, and chaotic, traumatic, and completely unexpected. So it's kind of like I knew some things, but had no clue some of the other stuff to come. And that's kind of what I'm still working through now. It's been, a year and a half plus, and I'm still kind of in the thick of it. I haven't even had that first hit, Pluto square my nodal axis. So I think I'm still building. I'm still in that kind of like apprehension phase, and haven't had the sigh of relief, like been there, done that phase yet, until I get that first hit from Pluto, I think, square my nodal axis.
Okay.
So we'll see. Yeah.
So I have to say that, I think I was concerned about going over, and I probably overcompensated by not making this long enough. So I'll open this up to questions. If anybody has any questions about this, this paradigm, or any questions of Olive and her chart, this would be a good time.
Yes, it's Linda here. Yeah, very interesting chart, Olive. I'm interested in your moon in Aquarius in the 9th house. Do you find you suffer from like maybe nervous ailments or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I'm literally constantly, my whole life, I've been filled with anxiety, like crippling anxiety and frozen in fear, like complete overwhelm. I think a lot of that is also the 12th house, but my moon for sure has a lot to do with that as well. But yeah, I have really crippling anxiety, and I'm very Plutonian, so there's a lot of fear associated with my, you know, my journey.
Yeah, you said that your father's Uranus was at 17 degrees Aries.
Yeah, I'm not 17, but right around there. His natal Uranus sat right there. He died during his Uranus return.
Oh, okay.
So he died right at Uranus return, like many people do at 84.
What, a few years ago, was it?
No, it was just a year. This December 30th, it'll be a year. So he died December 30th. And I knew that he would die right around January 2016 because I knew Pluto would hit my 8th house cusp, and sure enough, he died December 30th.
Wow.
So I'd known for years that he was going to die around that.
Is your mother still with us?
Nope, he killed her during her second Uranus square at 63.
Oh.
So yeah, she was, you know, she wasn't healthy. Like neither one of us did a lot of self-care, and so we were all busy taking care of my narcissistic father, and so. My mom died September 29th of 2000. So only 21 days after her 63rd birthday. So she's right in that Uranus square.
Yeah, I found your comments about your early upbringing, especially in terms of your father, very interesting. It made me have a look at the chart and think, you know, what does this correlate to in the chart? And I'm looking at your South Node in Libra in the 5th house, which is the Leo house, which is like the masculine, and it can be an overbearing father. And the ruler of that is Venus in the 12th house, and that to me indicates that your father was not really there for you. He was like invisible.
Yeah, well, I come to find out he was just really a holographic image, but I didn't know that. I didn't really know that all my life. He was really an Oscar-winning performer in projecting an image like a narcissist would, in being kind of Mr. Nice Guy or like unconditionally loving father, right? So I never really questioned or doubted. It's not like I wasn't always aware of the abuse because I lived it, but he definitely was a true narcissist, like not the trait, like we all have narcissistic traits, but he was like the delusional. You know, his chart is fascinating, but very, very much a narcissist in every sense of the word.
And then I asked myself, why is Olive experiencing these things in this lifetime? You know, why has it been so hard for you? And then I'm looking now at Pluto in the 4th house and the moon in the 9th house in conjunct that Pluto, which is an aspect of crisis, and it induces it sort of humiliates the ego, and so this is happening all the time for you. And so in this lifetime, you know, you have Pluto and Uranus in Virgo in the 4th house, and so it's a process of humiliation, really, and you're sort of liberating yourself from the father, from that 5th house, the South Node in the 5th. And
yeah, I mean, I did. There would be liberation. Uranus, but it hasn't happened yet, but you know, hopefully at some point it will. But I was looking at Uranus conjunct my North Node and him dying, because I had seen that years prior that he would probably die around that time. It's kind of liberating aspect, but really it was just like trauma. So
right. And your moon in conjunct Pluto is for your evolutionary growth. It's just for your general soul growth, I would say. Yeah,
for sure. It's definitely really been emphasized, and I can feel it very heavily.
I think somebody else is talking. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, it's Wendy. I'm in my car, so it was going in and out. Hi, Olive. I was just thinking, of course, because, you know, I have Pluto in the 4th house, too, conjunct Uranus. What year are you born?
1968.
68. Okay, so you haven't had your Chiron return. So, like,
no, I haven't.
I'm a 65er, which opposes Saturn, right? So I have, my Saturn is a skip step. So it's kind of like, I don't know if that's similar to having Saturn on the North Node, but it's on my South Node. So
yeah.
The reason there's a fire engine going by, so it'll be gone in a minute. I was just thinking about what Linda said about, you know, having Pluto in the 4th and then having the in conjunct from the moon. And, you know, like I have a moon in the 8th house and I have a loaded 4th house. And even though it's in a loose trine to my Venus there, it's like I can't get away from my emotional body, right? It's like it forces the issue to come up over and over and over and over, because anytime I go outside of myself, which happens because I'm human, then all those issues come up, and I'm like back in that fourth house. I'm back into the Cancer archetype, which can be very painful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to I don't know, acknowledge that it's not the easiest process, and then also
I think
that
Wolf Green considers it like almost. I think Jeffrey Wolf Green considers Pluto in the fourth almost the most the most dire. You know, it's like it's definitely, at least that's what my teacher used to say. My teacher Laura Nelbandian, my first teacher, I should say. But yeah, so it's definitely a difficult place, Pluto.
Yeah, it's an emotional crisis, right? So all that Virgo crisis, emotional body, and I guess you have new phase Uranus Pluto though.
Yeah, you have balsamic.
You have balsamic?
Yeah, I have. You're balsamic because you're 1965. I'm new phase.
Right. Yeah, you're new phase. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm new phase. I know you're balsamic just because I have some friends in 1965, and I know they're balsamic phase.
Yeah, I definitely am. I thought you were saying you were.
No, I'm new phase. I'm new phase. So I'm more that kind of, new phase. Yeah, I just think it's fascinating, though, in my chart anyway, and just what I'm going through my right now currently with my past life conditioning, my childhood conditioning, I should say, is that it's very clear to me that I chose like a real big hindrance in my soul's growth, right? My evolution, my North Node conjunct Saturn. I chose my father, like this huge, like obstacle to kind of evolve, you know, like I actually have a reluctance to evolve. I don't even want to go to my North Node Saturn. I have no desire to do it. And so, but I find it so fascinating how it's so clear that, you know, I think we can really, you know, just like a 12th houser, I can really be all about the self-sabotage and shooting myself in the foot. And I did that prior to my incarnation. I set it up that way to where it was like just this real, you know, big obstacle and hindrance to my evolutionary journey. So it's pretty fascinating how straightforward my transits are.
It'll probably be the transits then that bring you to that North Node.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem that that's where it's headed. I'm reluctant to go there, though. You know, I'm very comfortable sitting in my shit. I'm very Plutonian. I'm very comfortable, and so I don't really have that. I'm not very desirous or goal-oriented or, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's really hard for me to kind of harness that Capricornian kind of energy, that you know, Taurus. I'm way more kind of in the, you know, it's fascinating, but it's very straightforward. My transits could not be more straightforward right now. Just you know, right when Pluto got to my 8th house cusp, all the deaths, I've had a lot of death and loss and, you know, really dire, painful stuff. So
I think Wanda wanted to say something there, Wanda.
Hey, Wanda.
Hi. I think that's the purpose of the Pluto and the Uranus being in the 4th house, especially since you have a moon in Aquarius. The cardinal energy is initiating, but it's also a back and forth. And because you have that Taurus, Sun, and Venus, you need that Pluto there to get you out of a rut. Taurus tends to want to stay in a rut.
I'm a frog in the well for sure.
So that is the purpose of that Pluto-Uranus conjunction in the 4th house, to get you to initiate that emotional process, because that's the only way humans tend to initiate the things that we need to go through in order to evolve, is to make things uncomfortable. Yeah,
very much so. And I'm definitely in that phase. And I was saying to Daniel, although we didn't want to bring it in because it gets confusing, but cardinal chart, I mean, my progress chart is all cardinal now, so it makes sense what you're saying. I'm very much needing to get to more of that cardinal kind of energy and initiate a new kind of way to do things, you know?
Well,
right. And
all of you, also, you know, Uranus is going to go direct, so never mind. I lost my train of thought there. I apologize.
Daniel,
No, that's what Daniel, that's
I can
fine.
pick it up. That means it's going to go over that Saturn. And if we think about what Aaron just said about Uranus and Saturn, I mean, it's pretty I mean, I have it opposing. It's pretty, it'll break shit down that needs to be broken down.
It's been happening for a while. I'll be happy when it moves along, when Uranus kind of moves along from that point. But yeah, I mean, it's been going on for a couple of years. It's a lot.
Yeah, so Daniel,
but I'll definitely.
What's
Daniel.
Very interesting transit is that Pluto has just gone into Olive's 8th house.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
You're asking me.
Yeah, we just thought we've got to get you back into the conversation as it's your meeting.
Back into the mix here. Well, certainly with Pluto transiting her 8th house, it's going to ramp up all her relationships with other people. It's going to intensify them. And I believe that those relationships may be with people who maybe are not on the planet anymore. She's going to be resolving these relationships. They're going to be up front and up close and personal.
That makes sense.
Whether they come, they come from memory, or people are going to show up, in your outer world, one way or another. It's going to intensify all those relationships.
Yeah, and it has been with Uranus through my 11th house as well. It's been definitely, a lot of revelations, sudden revelations, and a lot of trauma and upsets, sudden kind of things that pop out of nowhere. But yeah, I definitely see that too, Daniel, with the 8th house Pluto for sure. Very much. It's all very accurate.
Hi, Daniel and Olive. I have a question about, you mentioned her nodes is station, right?
Uh-huh.
The lunar nodes, yes, they're stationed.
Yeah, I wonder how is that, especially the North node is conjunct Saturn, does that bring like a constant focus, like more intense with her nodes, and the nodes is not stationed?
Well, whenever you see a chart and the nodal axis itself is stationary, it's pretty much a guarantee that individual's going to have a very intense life one way or another. Because it's like drilling down. It's, when anything goes when anything stations, it's kind of like, when you hold a magnifying glass up to the sun and it focuses the light and really burns in on that spot. And this is a lifelong experience. It's not like a transit stationing. It's a station in the natal chart itself. So it really intensifies that nodal axis.
Right, and the Pluto is going to go to 17-degree Capricorn, squaring that node. I wonder what's your thought about that?
Yeah, what do you think about my resolution South Node, Daniel? I'm curious.
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit. Your resolution South Node is I really believe that your relationships are going to be more important in your life. I think that you have pretty much, from what we've talked, what you've told me, not that you don't have any friends or family, but you've pretty much been a loner. You've been isolated one way or another. And I think it's going to some degree bring you out of your shell. You're going to feel more connected to other people. Perhaps you're going to want to have, especially with Pluto in your 8th house, you're going to want to intensify and experience yourself through those relationships more, which you've probably avoided.
Yeah, so that would be really central to the last. Let's say like a full Jupiter cycle, like a last 12 years. I've been very much kind of on a hermitage, like a pretty long one, like 5 years now. But I was ridiculously social for way too long. And I feel like, I resonate with what you say, because I feel like Pluto is forcing me to come out of the hibernation mode and kind of almost have to start relating with people again. But it's not something that's foreign to me. I was always, very, very social when I was younger, very like inundated by people, social, like constant people.
You've been creating yourself through your relationships for a long time.
Yeah.
So that trend is going to continue. It's not over anytime.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's very accurate perception, Daniel. I think that I think Pluto's requiring me now, like mandating that I kind of come out of the hermitage mainly because I have to adult and I have to get some income. Like I have no income. Like I need to, you know, really pick up the pace. It's a quickening of my evolutionary pace. Like I got to get stuff done. And so I definitely think that that's a very accurate interpretation for sure. It's like I have to kind of go back out. I've noticed even when I was 12 years old, I kind of isolated for a bit, was like a little bit of a hermit. So like, I think when Jupiter hits my black moon Lilith, I go into kind of a hibernation. Like when it transits my 12th house, and then I kind of have to come out at some point. This is the longest I've been in it though, but it's been a difficult time. That obviously I'm older now. So when I was younger, it was easier to come out, but now it's just like, oh my God, I just don't want to do anything. I don't even want to get out of bed in the morning.
All right, well, I guess we have a minute left, and hopefully I can close here. I want to thank everybody. I do blog often. You can read my blogs on my website, www.forevolutionaryastrology.com. You can reach me at daniel@forevolutionaryastrology.com. I'm on the radio once a month here in Santa Fe. It's on the internet at ksfr.org. You can reach me directly at 505-930-2748. I'd love to hear from anybody, feedback. Just call me to say hi. And thank you. Namaste.
Yeah, thanks so much, Daniel. You're awesome. I'll be in touch soon, too.
Thank you for volunteering. You're an awesome volunteer.
Yeah, thanks so much, Daniel. I really appreciate it. It was fun working with you, volunteering for you.
Thank you very much, Daniel and Olive. I've just unmuted everyone so we can say a quick thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're all welcome. Thank you all.
Yep, that was fantastic. See you again, and I'll see you in the next meeting, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everybody.